Good morning, fourth grade. Today we are continuing our exploration of different Earth environments. We will be using our journal and adding more information about different Earth environments. Before we get started, I want to remind you that if you would like to join me for the live stream, we are now beginning at 1:20. Okay, let's review about all the different environments that we have explored so far. We have explored 4 different Earth environments: rainforest, desert, grasslands, and taigas. Each of these different environments have different temperatures, soil, plants, and animals. One thing that I have noticed about these different environments is that depending on the temperature and the soil, that is what dictates what kind of plants or animals are able to survive in these environments. For example, in a desert, which is a dry, hot area that is very rocky and sandy, only certain plants like cacti and mesquite trees can survive because they are able to adapt since there is not that much water. Or when we look at a taiga, which is opposite from a forest that is very cold with very little soil. The plants that are in a taiga don't need much soil because their roots are able to absorb the water. And then the animals that live in taiga environment have adaptations like their furs or the paws that are able to keep them warm during the cold time. And the same is for our rainforest and grassland. Even though our rainforest is wet and receives lots of rain, there are lots of trees that grow there, but they are very tall, so it kind of prevents for the sun to reach down, so our soil is not very fertile. But it does help a lot of animals, various type of trees and various types of plants. There are different animals like monkeys, jaguars, snakes, and beetles that can survive in a rainforest. Our grassland, since there is lots of rain in our grassland, and it has a lot of different seasons, it causes a lot of grass to grow, making it nice homes for different animals like wolves and snakes. Let's continue exploring the different Earth environments, and we can continue to explore both the non-living and the living factors that make up the environment. Let's open up our journal to page 33, and we are going to be adding a new environment, which is a forest. I know that we talked about a rainforest and a taiga, which are types of forest. But today we're going to be adding an additional forest, which is a temperate forest. You will now have 1 minute to write forest in your journal. Okay, now that you have added forest in your journal, let's find out and read more about what are forests. Forest is areas that are dominated by trees. The forests that we are exploring today have temperate weather. That means that it is not as hot as a rainforest, and it's not as cold as a taiga forest. These forests are found all around the world, including North America, South America, Europe, Australia, and Asia. Let's continue reading to find out more about the non-living factors that make up the forest environment. Our first non-living factor is the temperature. The temperature in a forest, as I mentioned above, is temperate, meaning that usually the temperature is the lowest is like negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit and the highest is 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Forests, since they are temperate, they go through all four different seasons: spring, summer, winter, and fall. Each season has 3 months, meaning that it is only very cold in the winter. So the plants have a lot of time to be able to grow. Also, in a forest, 76 centimeters to 153 centimeters is the average rainfall for a year. Another non-living factor is the soil. Since there is a lot of rain, it helps hydrate the soil. The soil is also very fertile because the leaves that fall from the trees and decaying animals usually fall on the ground. And when these rotten leaves and animals decay, the soil is able to absorb the nutrients, making it very fertile for many tall trees and different plants to grow. Now that we have read about the non-living factors of forests, we can update our journal on page 33, our row about forests, and add what we learned about temperature and the soil type. As we read, we saw that the temperature in a forest is 20 degrees Fahrenheit to 90 degrees. There is all four seasons: spring, summer, winter, and fall, and a forest usually receives 76 centimeters to 153 centimeters of rain. And all these factors help the soil be very fertile. You will have about 2 minutes to add this and update your forest row on page 33. Let's take a look at some of the living factors that make up the forest environment. One of the living factors in a forest are the different plants. Like other forests, temperate forests have three different layers of plants. The top is a canopy made up of fully grown trees. Trees in a forest are able to grow really tall, and their leaves are able to intertwine with each other, creating an umbrella throughout the forest. In the middle is called the understory. The understory of a forest is made up of saplings, which are small trees and shrubs, which you see in this picture. And then the very bottom layer, which is the forest floor, is made up of different plants like wildflowers, ferns, mushrooms, and moss. These types of plants are often used by animals to provide a home. Let's continue to explore the different living factors that are animals in the forest environment. Animals also make up the forest environment. A variety or a different kinds of animals live in the forest. Animals like black bears, mountain lions, deer, skunks, rabbits, birds, and so many more. The animals that live in the forest have different ways to adapt in the wintertime. Even though it doesn't get too cold, these animals need to find different ways to stay warm. For example, some animals may migrate or move to a different location where it's warm, or some animals may hibernate, which means that they sleep until it is springtime and they are able to use the fat that they have gotten through the year to feed themselves. Some animals, like insects, die. However, before they die, insects lay their eggs that will hatch in the springtime. These different living factors make up the forest environment. We will now take the time to update our row on forest and its living factors, updating plants and animals. As we read about forests, we were able to see trees, shrubs, fern, mosses, and wildflowers are the plants. We also read that black bears, mountain lions, skunks, and deer are the type of animals in this environment. You will now have 2 minutes to add that into your journal. The environment needs all its non-living factors like the temperature and the soil, and the living factors, animals and plants, to be able to survive and have its system of being a forest. Now let's take a look at another type of environment. The environment we are going to be exploring next is a tundra. You will now have 1 minute to update your journal and add tundra. The tundra is the last environment we are going to be exploring. Alright, now that you have added tundra into your journal, what is a tundra? Well, a tundra is a cold environment that has no trees. Tundras are found on the northern part, up north of our planet Earth. 20% of the Earth land is covered with tundra. We see a tundra in Russia and in the very top part of North America. Let's take a look at the non-living factors that make up a tundra. The first non-living factor that we are going to explore is the temperature. A tundra is one of the coldest Earth's environments. It is so cold that the average temperature in a tundra is from negative 18 degrees during the winter and only goes up to high of 50 degrees in the summertime. Imagine you going outside right now and you lived in the tundra and that was the weather during the summertime. That would be very cold. Tundra is it's a very dry area. In a year, it only receives 25 centimeters of precipitation. And usually that precipitation comes in the form of snow. So a tundra is a very cold and dry area. Let's see what kind of soil we find in a tundra in this cold environment. The soil, which is another non-living factor, since it's very cold, it has permafrost. What is permafrost? Permafrost means that below the very top soil that is on the top, the ground below is permanently frozen. Since the soil in a tundra environment is frozen, it prevents trees from being able to grow since they have nowhere to attach their roots to underground. We are now going to update the non-living factors of a tundra. As we read, we were able to see that a tundra is cold and dry. It usually has a temperature of negative 18 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit being the highest and only 25 centimeters of precipitation. We also saw that this affects the soil since most of it is frozen underground because of permafrost. You will now have 2 minutes to update this on your row about tundras on page 33. Let's read about the living factors of plants that are able to grow in a tundra. Although the tundra has permafrost and most of the ground is frozen, a couple of plants like grass, shrubs, and herbs are able to grow. But these plants have to grow in small groups and they only grow very low to the ground. That way the wind doesn't affect it. And these plants can only sprout in the summertime when it isn't that cold. Let's look at the other living factors of animals. The animals that live in the tundra have to be able to adapt to the cold weather. Different ways these animals adapt are being able to change their fur coat from brown in the summertime to white in the wintertime. That way they can blend in with the snow. Also, animals that can't do that may migrate south to other warm locations. Some examples of animals that live in a tundra are Arctic hares, Arctic foxes, snowy owls, or caribou. Notice how most of these animals have either snow or Arctic in their name. That is because these animals are special and are able to survive in cold environments. Let's update our journal now. We will now add the plants and animals to our tundra row. While we read, we were able to see that the plants that grow in tundras are grass, shrubs, and herbs. We also read that the animals that are in tundras are Arctic hares, Arctic foxes, snowy owls, and caribou. You will now have 2 minutes to add that into your journal. Now we have added all different 6 types of environments into our journal.